Dr. Sarah Chen had seen many things during her 5 years aboard the Frontier Medical, but nothing prepared her for the sight of Commander Vexther collapsed in her emergency bay. The Calrathian warrior, 7 feet of navy blue skin, white blonde hair, and rippling muscle, trembled on the examination table like a frightened child. "The implants," he gasped, his silver eyes wide with panic. "You're going to remove them." Sarah frowned, reviewing the medical scan on her data pad. The bio-integrative nodes embedded along his spine glowed faintly in the holographic display, military-grade enhancement technology, standard issue for Calrathian shock troops. The readings showed critical degradation. Without removal and replacement, the implants would kill him within weeks. "Commander, these implants are failing. The toxicity levels." "No." His massive hand shot out, gripping her wrist with surprising gentleness despite his desperation. "Please, don't take them out." Sarah had performed hundreds of xenobiological procedures, maintained her professional composure through everything from Thraxian molting crises to Yolian reproductive emergencies. But the raw terror in Vexther's voice made her pause. "I don't understand. These are killing you." He turned his face away, his jaw clenched. "They're all I have left of my squad, my brothers." The words hung in the sterile air. Sarah's breath caught as understanding dawned. She pulled up his military record, her heart sinking as she read. Battle of Sigma Station. Entire unit lost, sole survivor. "The implants," she began softly. "Each node contains neural echo patterns from my team," Vexther whispered. "When I dream, I can still hear them, feel their presence, Kexmer's terrible jokes, Thalrin's strategic brilliance, young Jexica's optimism." His voice cracked. "If you remove them, they're truly gone, forever." Sarah set down her datapad, her medical training warring with her humanity. The protocols were clear, failing implants posed too great a risk. But she'd never considered what those cold, technological components might mean to someone who'd lost everything. She pulled up a chair beside the examination table, meeting his desperate silver gaze with her own brown eyes. "Tell me about them," she said quietly. "Your brothers, and then we'll figure this out together." For the first time since entering her medical bay, Vexther's trembling stopped. His massive frame seemed to shrink as he spoke, his voice carrying the weight of memories too heavy for one being to bear alone. "Kexmer was our demolitions expert," he began, a ghost of a smile crossing his angular features. "He could disarm a plasma mine while telling you about his mother's cooking. Used to say that if we survived the war, he'd open a restaurant on Calrath Prime." The smile faded. "He died shielding me from a reactor breach." Sarah listened, her hand resting gently on the examination table near his. She'd activated a passive neural monitor, watching the bio readings from his implants shift with each memory. "Thalrin was our tactician, brilliant mind, terrible social skills." A soft laugh escaped him. "He once calculated the exact probability of us all surviving the war, 0.03%. But he also calculated the probability of our friendship lasting if we did survive, 100%. The neural patterns in the implants pulsed with golden light as Vexther spoke, and Sarah realized something remarkable. The failing technology wasn't just storing data, it was preserving emotional resonance, the very essence of his bonds with his fallen comrades. "Jexica joined us 3 months before Sigma Station," Vexther continued, his voice growing rougher. fresh from the academy, barely 19 cycles old. He was terrified but refused to show it, asked me once if I was ever afraid. He closed his eyes. I lied and said no. I should have told him the truth, that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's choosing to stand despite it. A single tear tracked down his navy blue cheek. He died holding the evacuation corridor, gave his life so civilians could escape. The last thing he transmitted was, "Tell my parents I wasn't afraid." Sarah's professional detachment crumbled completely. She squeezed Vexther's hand, feeling the warmth of his alien skin against her palm. "Commander," she said firmly, "I need you to trust me. I'm not going to take them away from you." He opened his silver eyes, confusion and hope warring in their depths. "But the scans showed. The implants are failing, yes, but what if we don't remove them?" She pulled up her data pad, her mind already racing through possibilities. "What if we save them instead?" Sarah worked through the night, her medical bay transformed into a hybrid laboratory. Holographic displays surrounded her workstation, showing impossible equations and unprecedented xenobiological challenges. Vexther sat nearby, watching with a mixture of hope and disbelief. "The problem isn't the neural echo technology itself," Sarah explained, highlighting sections of the failing implants on her display. "It's the bio-integration matrix. Your body's been rejecting the foreign materials slowly over time. Standard protocol would be removal, but, Vexther leaned forward. But what if we don't treat them as foreign anymore?" She pulled up a complex molecular diagram. "I've been developing a technique for cross-species organ transplantation, essentially teaching the recipient's body to accept alien tissue as its own. I've never tried it with military-grade technology, but theoretically. You could make my body accept the implants permanently? Better." Sarah's eyes gleamed with scientific excitement. "I could integrate them so completely that they'd regenerate alongside your own cellular structure. The neural echoes wouldn't just be preserved, they'd become a permanent part of you." Vexther stood abruptly, his 7-foot frame towering over her. For a moment, Sarah wondered if she'd overstepped. Then he pulled her into a crushing embrace, lifting her off her feet. "Dr. Chen," his voice rumbled against her hair, "you're either a genius or insane." "Most groundbreaking medical professionals are both," she managed, slightly breathless. He set her down gently, his hands on her shoulders. "Why would you do this, risk your medical license for a protocol that's never been tested?" Sarah met his gaze steadily. "Because you're right. They're not just implants, they're people, your family, and no one should have to choose between survival and keeping their loved ones close." Something shifted in the air between them, a connection forming that transcended doctor and patient. "The procedure will take 8 hours, she continued, trying to maintain her professional tone despite the warmth spreading through her chest. "It's risky. There's a 30% chance of complete neural cascade failure. Meaning? Meaning you could lose not just the echo patterns, but significant portions of your own memories and personality." Vexther was quiet for a long moment, his silver eyes searching hers. Then he smiled, genuinely smiled, for the first time since she'd met him. "Dr. Chen, I've survived impossible odds before, 0.03%, remember?" He settled back onto the examination table. "Besides, something tells me I'm in exceptionally capable hands." Sarah felt her cheeks warm. "I'll need to prep the surgical suite and synthesize the integration compounds. Try to rest. Tomorrow we attempt the impossible." As she turned to leave, his voice stopped her. "Sarah." She looked back, surprised by his use of her first name. "Thank you For seeing them, for seeing me. She nodded, unable to trust her voice, and wondered when exactly this had become more than just another medical procedure. The surgical suite hummed with quiet energy as Sarah worked. Vexther lay sedated but semi-conscious, a necessity for neural integration procedures. She needed him aware enough to guide the bonding process, to consciously accept the merging of technology and biology. "You'll feel a warmth spreading from your spine," she explained, initiating the first phase. Crystalline compounds synthesized from her own adapted human cellular markers combined with Calrathian biomatter began flowing through the injection ports. "Tell me what you're experiencing." "It's strange," Vexther murmured, his eyes half closed. "Like sunlight soaking into winter-frozen ground." Sarah monitored the readings intensely. The compounds were working, teaching his immune system to recognize the implants as native tissue rather than foreign invaders. But the real challenge lay ahead. "I'm going to activate the deep integration protocol now," she warned. "This is where it gets difficult." She initiated the sequence. The neural echo patterns, preserved in the failing implants, began redistributing throughout his entire nervous system. It was like transferring data from a damaged hard drive, except the data was memories, emotions, the very essence of fallen warriors. Vexther gasped, his body arching. "Commander, talk to me, what's happening?" "I can feel them," he breathed, wonder and pain mixing in his voice. "Not just hear them anymore, they're everywhere. Kexmor's laughter in my chest, Thalrin's calculations in my thoughts, Jexika's courage in my heartbeat." The monitors spiked dangerously. Sarah's hands flew across the controls, adjusting the integration rate. Too fast and the neural cascade would overwhelm him. Too slow and the failing implants would deteriorate completely before the transfer finished. "Stay with me, Vexther, you're doing beautifully." "Sarah," he whispered, his hand finding hers with surprising accuracy despite his sedation. "I need to tell you something in case—" "Don't," her voice cracked. "Don't you dare say goodbye." "Not goodbye," he managed. "Just." "In these weeks of preparation, working with you every night, I've felt something I thought died at Sigma Station. Hope, connection, maybe even—" The monitors screamed. "Neural cascade beginning." Sarah had seconds to make a choice, abort the procedure and save his life, but lose everything or push through and risk losing him entirely. She looked at Vexther's face, saw the peace there despite the pain, and made her decision. "I'm not losing you," she said fiercely, flooding his system with a concentrated burst of the integration compound. "And I'm not losing them, we're saving everyone." Her hands moved with absolute precision, making adjustments too quick for conscious thought, driven by instinct and something deeper, a desperate need to preserve this connection, this man, this moment. The monitors peaked, flatlined for an eternal heartbeat, then stabilized. The integration was complete. Vexther's eyes opened slowly, silver irises gleaming with new light. Sarah held her breath, running diagnostic scans while her heart hammered against her ribs. Had it worked? Had she saved him, or had her desperate gamble cost him everything? "Commander," she whispered. "Can you hear me?" He sat up carefully, his movements controlled despite 8 hours of intensive neural surgery. Then he smiled, not the ghost of happiness she'd seen before, but something radiant and whole. "I hear you, Sarah." "And I hear them too." His hand pressed against his chest. "They're part of me now, truly part of me, not fading echoes, but woven into every cell, every thought, every breath." Relief crashed over her so powerfully that her knees buckled. Vexther caught her, pulling her against him as she shook with the release of hours of tension. "You did it," he murmured into her hair. "You saved us all." "I was so scared," she admitted, allowing herself this moment of vulnerability. "When the monitors flatlined, I thought, SHH." He tilted her chin up gently, his silver eyes meeting her brown ones. "I'm here, we're all here." Sarah saw it then, the change in him. The guilt and grief that had weighed on his massive shoulders had transformed into something else. Not forgetting, never forgetting, but acceptance. His fallen brothers were no longer ghosts he carried, but strength he embodied. "You know what Thalrin would say about this?" Vexther asked softly. "What?" "He'd calculate the probability of a human doctor performing an unprecedented xenobiological procedure to save the memories of Calrathian warriors, and then calculate the probability of that same doctor stealing the heart of a broken soldier." His thumb traced her cheek tenderly. "Both would be astronomically low, and yet here we are." "And what would Kexmer say?" Sarah asked, her own hand coming up to rest against his chest, feeling the strong, steady heartbeat beneath navy blue skin. "He'd say that if we survive this, we should celebrate with his mother's starfruit pie, and probably make terrible jokes about cross-species romance protocols." "And Jexica?" Vexther's expression softened. "He'd say that courage is choosing to love despite fear, and he'd be proud of us both." Sarah rose on her toes, and Vexther met her halfway, their lips joining in a kiss that tasted of hope, new beginnings, and promises kept to both the living and the dead. When they parted, Sarah rested her forehead against his chest, listening to that miraculous heartbeat, one life containing many, love multiplied rather than diminished. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now," Vexther wrapped his arms around her. "Now we live, we honor them by being happy, by choosing connection over isolation, love over fear." He paused. "And maybe, if a brilliant human doctor would consider it, we face the future together." Sarah pulled back to look at him, seeing not just Vexther, but the family he carried within him, the love he'd preserved against impossible odds, and the future they could build together. "Together," she agreed. "Always." Outside the medical bay, the stars turned in their ancient dance, indifferent to the boundaries between species, to the walls between life and death, to anything except the fundamental truth that love, in all its forms, endures. And in a quiet corner of the frontier medical, a human doctor and an alien warrior proved that sometimes the most profound healing comes not from what we remove, but from what we choose to keep.